Hello everybody and welcome back to our channel. Today we'll be reviewing the Charme armchair. It's a minimalistic swivel round armchair. Let's dive into its details. This review is about the armchair, but we also have two other elements, which are the footstool, the pouffe ottoman, which does match the armchair, and we also have a proper stool. This stool, it's a 44-45 centimeters high stool with no backrest, so it's basically a seat like this without the back and without the armrests, and it could be useful in certain situations, or it could be used as a footstool itself. So we said it's a compact armchair because its diameter is 71 centimeters and its height is 65 centimeters. You can see how the back is as high as the armrest. The seat is 42 centimeters, but it does sink in a bit when you sit, and it's very welcoming, not too bouncy. I normally start from other features, but with such an armchair I want to start from its ergonomics because I very much like it. It's definitely great. Sometimes I try and find defects on the products that I review, but in this case, in terms of comfort, of course it's straightforward that I cannot rest my upper shoulders or my back. But it's so comfortable that, well, I could play cards, chat with my friends, read a book. It's great for me. And you can adjust the way you sit based on how you position your bottom. Great. Even the proportion between the back and the armrest is optimal to me. We said the Charme armchair has a swivel base, but bear in mind that it doesn't have a spring. There are other models where, for example, you position it like this, you rotate and it comes back. In this case, it doesn't have a spring. I can tell you though that the base here, the round base, is very, very sturdy. We moved the armchair in the studio. It's quite heavy. It's really built as a tank, like a tank, as you used to say, and this is very good for the reliability of the item. Well, of course, it's not the sort of armchair that you move around much in your room. So the fabrics, the leathers and the covers are not removable. The cushion though, the seating cushion is removable because it can be convenient, for example, to move it every now and then, and for example to take up the crumbles that might have fallen behind the cushion or underneath the cushion. If you dare to eat something on such a beautiful armchair, this is a good feature to be able to remove it. Let's dive into the way it is built in terms of how materials are managed, and here we actually see 5 materials overall, because we have the base, which is metal, we have the fabric here on the sides, front and back, then we have the leather band here, which goes all around the armchair, and if we have a very detailed close-up, we have this GrosGrain piping, which is available in 19 different colors. We have this stitching, which is available in 16 colors, and so we might opt for contrasting effects between the materials or for tone-and-tone effects. And this makes for great customization possibilities. So, as much as the GrosGrain piping is beautiful and customizable, we have an alternative which is called wave trimming. You can see a detail in the catalog, and it actually intersects the stitching and the fabric together with the leather that you use for the band, and creates an interesting effect on the perimeter here. Another detail which I very much like is the way materials are managed underneath here, because it really creates a kind of sandwich effect, because I have fabric, GrosGrain, leather, here I have again GrosGrain, fabric, leather, stitching, fabric, and one could argue and say, oh, I don't like all these materials put together, and that's perfectly fine. You could opt for an armchair which has a simpler construction, but one could also say, oh, I love the way all these materials are matched. And if you look here, actually you see the boucle fabric coming out from the gap here, and it creates a peculiar effect. Then you must judge whether you like it or not. As to the metal base, we have available standard colors for the base and the whole selection of RAL colors available. And one could argue, okay, what do I need hundreds of colors for a metal base? Well, we said much customization. I could find the color of the GrosGrain or the stitching, and for example, I could kind of match it with the metal base, and so I could fall in love with this sort of shape, dimensions, sitting comfort and so on, and create a totally different aesthetic effect, moving away from these contrasting effects that we created here, and for example moving towards a whole tone-on-tone effect, and this is made possible by the all available colors, so just like the RAL color for the base. So I'll give you some information about the materials that you see here. Here you see the Bellamy fabric. It's a mottled boucle with multi-thread weave. Basically, it's you can perceive the knots of the boucle, which are installed and woven onto the multi-thread weave underneath. So you have these interesting effects of movement. A boucle which kinds of is attached together to the fabric which supports it underneath. Even if it has this special look and feel, it has a very good marketing results, so it's very resistant to scratch and use. It is not machine washable, but it's very peculiar indeed. And here we see the Tuscania leather. So the collection is manufactured in Tuscany, and here we see it with Tuscanian leather, which is called Tuscania. It's a vegetable tanning leather. It's full grain, and you can perceive it because you see there's not a part which is identical to the other. All is great and natural. And the vegetable tanning means that it's a fully eco-compatible process with no chemicals added, and it makes the leather biodegradable. And the fact that it does not use any chemical, it's not only good for the environment, which is a good cause, but it's also good for us because we keep these items in our home for decades, and so it's a special feature, not in addition to the fact that it's beautiful to touch and look at. So we've come to the end of today's product review. My colleague suggested me to move around a bit, and that's what I'm doing. I hope that you liked it, and see you next time. Bye bye.